Ion Shift is a new indie game that from a design standpoint was made specifically for me. It has a fantastic 2D art style, fast 2D platforming, and playing as a bloodthirsty alien that looks like it was pulled straight from one of my favorite horror franchises, ripping through crew members aboard a spaceship. Ion Shift, in theory, is 100% a Kneeckoh game. It was made for me, but does it land everything perfectly? Let's talk about it. So like I said, Ion Shift is a new 2D platforming indie game coming from Flynn's Arcade, releasing on July 31st, that is today, on Switch and Switch 2, that puts you behind the wheel of an alien who has snuck aboard a spacecraft. This alien is called a shifter, but you are not going to convince me that this isn't one of those pink xenomorphs from Alien Covenant. And you know what? I love the monsters design for that reason. I love the Alien franchise, and when I first saw the promo images for this game, that is immediately what I thought of and immediately made me interested in checking out the trailer and checking this game out. The story of this game is just that. You have snuck aboard this spacecraft, and as the baby xenomorph that you are going to tear through every living being on this ship. The writing is super simple, but very clever, with a lot of funny moments in fourth wall breaking, which was a nice little touch that kept me chuckling every couple levels when the two human main characters would come out and have a dialogue bit. Now, the gameplay in this game is very simple, but requires some precision. You are really only using like 4 buttons while you're playing this game. You're using ZR to dash and jump from wall to wall, you're using ZL to jump into vents, L to pick up items, and R to throw said items, and that's really it. Each level is designed with one goal: kill all the bad guys in them and move on to the next room. Simple enough, right? Wrong. You're wrong. Because despite the fact that you are an extremely fast killing machine, you can also only take 1 hit at a time. Meaning, if you make a mistake, you are starting at the last checkpoint, which can be problematic, but we'll talk about that a bit later. And all of this combined together leads to a very fun, but sometimes frustrating formula. The gameplay is quick and geometry based, lining up your jumps to tear through the enemies in front of you before they can shoot you. But because it is so quick, you often will make mistakes because you're trying to move so fast, leading you to missing an attack and being shot and starting back at the last checkpoint. And honestly, this messing up on the geometry and my jumps doesn't bug me too much. This is definitely a me issue because I'm moving too quick and I need to slow down and think about my movements a little bit more. And as I kept playing the game, I was getting better and better, and I was making less and less mistakes, and it became incredibly satisfying how quickly I could clear a room of all the enemies that inhabited it. This is where the game truly shines. Now, in each level, the game introduces new mechanics and obstacles very smartly, only throwing a couple of them at you at first until you really understand how they work, and then they throw you into the deep end and have that mechanic freaking everywhere. And one thing I noticed about the level design that honestly I feel is pretty smart is they honestly design them with the anticipation that you are going to die. You are not going to clear this on the first run. And the reason I say that is because there are often obstacles that you really wouldn't have noticed until you hit that part of the level and they ultimately kill you, making you leave a mental note for the next time that you're going to be moving through the level that that obstacle is there and how you are going to approach it differently. The levels I enjoy the most are the levels where I'm tearing through the soldiers on the ship to move to the next zone, because there are the locations where I have the most room to breathe and actually slow down, allowing me to strategically plan my attack and not get shot. The locations that frustrate me are the platforming based levels. And this is because they typically require you to move so quickly and leave little room for error, which can be frustrating when you can just barely miss your jump and get killed, sending you back to the last checkpoint. And it's for this reason that checkpoints really bother me in this game. Less so on the soldier rooms, but in the platforming rooms, because like I said, you have to move so incredibly quickly to beat some of these platforming levels that it leaves little margin for error, making them much more challenging than the soldier levels themselves. However, if you clear one section of the platforming level, there isn't another checkpoint, meaning that you get sent right back to the start to make mistakes all over again in the section that you had been beating your head against for the last 10 minutes. There was a level that actually made me put my controller down and step away from the game for a second. And this was the first boss fight of sorts. And this was a soldier with a jetpack that would chase you through the level and shoot rockets at you that you could not kill, and you simply had to escape. Naturally, this sent you through a platforming room where you not only had to move quickly for the platforming section of the game, but also to avoid getting hit by the rockets, making for a very anxiety-filled level of frustration. And I want to note, I am playing this game on normal difficulty, which is the lowest difficulty setting in the game. This game is not for the faint of heart. I do also want to highlight one particular obstacle that just drives me absolutely crazy in this game, and it's in both the platforming levels as well as the soldier levels. and that is the tracker robot. These dudes have a beam that when you walk into it, the robot charges you and kills you. You can dodge this. However, something I noticed is that occasionally, even if you wouldn't get into the beam of light, the robot would randomly turn, lock onto you, and fly at you. And this was insanely frustrating as there was no real rhyme or reason to why this was happening. It felt more like an RNG issue than an actual skill issue on my end. And this is the only obstacle that I really had this gripe with, but good lord, are these things annoying when I come across them. Now, despite all the frustrations I'm having, I am still really enjoying this game. I want to highlight that. I am still really liking this game. And the reason for this is I don't mind a game with some challenge to it. Any game with some challenge is going to frustrate you at some point. So that is just kind of expected from a game with a difficulty like this particular game. I am more than okay with putting the controller down for a little bit and coming back when I'm no longer frustrated. And I've done that a couple times with this particular game because some of these rooms and platforming challenges are just very difficult and I need to recalibrate and come back to the game to really lock in on the level. But the one thing about this game is that when the levels are hitting and you're getting all your jumps right, they are so incredibly satisfying. And this is where the fun of this game really comes from. And when you finally get that right movement pattern down on a level you've been struggling with, it feels so incredibly good. And this is what keeps me coming back for more on this particular game. The satisfaction of tearing through a room is so good with this game and I just can't get enough of it. I love the soldier levels. Now there are some additional ways to play Ion Shift. Like I said, I was playing on the normal difficulty, but if you are someone who just loves being tortured and frustrated, there are higher difficulties for you to take on, and one of them removes checkpoints from the game entirely, so good luck with that. Also, there's an option to go back through and play certain levels again to see how quickly you can clear a room, and this gives you something to do after you finish the game. You can just go back through and try and get a better score on certain levels, which I think is a really nice little touch because there are really optimal pathing in this game. You can go for certain rooms and be able to take things down much more effectively than you did on your initial run, and each subsequent playthrough I could see this getting better and better and better, which I think is a really solid way to play this game. I honestly even thought about going back and trying a level again now that I'm a little bit more familiar with the controls and better with the movement. I was like, I can tear through some of these levels, so I think that's a really fun aspect for this particular game. In conclusion, Ion Shift is a game that is made for me in particular. It is a sci-fi horror themed game that puts me behind the wheel of the killer, from its fantastic 2D art style to perfectly designed alien that I am still convinced is a xenomorph variant. This game is right up my alley. The writing is funny and I found myself constantly looking forward to the human characters and what they had to say every couple of levels after I murdered more of their friends. Yes, this game has its flaws. It is not a perfect game, and it has many instances of frustration for me personally, but I understand that this game is meant to be challenging, and due to all the things that I love about it, I am able to look past it. Is it a perfect game? Not by any stretch of the imagination. But is it a fun game? Absolutely. I was having a blast with it, and I keep coming back to put myself through more of it, so clearly I really enjoy it. And coming in at only $6 on the Nintendo Switch eShop, I can safely say this is probably the most fun I've had with a game on my Nintendo Switch 2 for only $6. It is definitely worth the cost of admission and the amount of fun that you get out of it. But that is going to be it for my video on Ion Shift, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Do you plan to pick up Ion Shift? Is this something that interests you? Does the monster look like a xenomorph? Let me know all this in the comments below. But like I said, that is it for this video. Thank you to Flynn's Arcade for sending me a review code to check out Ion Shift early. Check it out. It is available today on the eShop. It'll be linked in the description below for you guys to check out. But leave a like, comment, and subscribe because it helps me out, helps the video out, and helps the channel out immensely. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.